Hey there, welcome to Tech Girl 254. If you're new here, this channel is all about making tech and freelancing simple and accessible. In today's video, we're diving into Excel from the ground up. So whether you're a total beginner or just looking to refresh your skills, you're in the right place. By the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to start using Excel confidently. Let's jump right in. No matter how much or how little experience you have with Excel, this video will help you get started from scratch. As you follow along, you'll gain all the essential skills to use Excel effectively. Don't let Excel intimidate you. You've got this. And whether you're using the latest version or an older one, the concepts we cover here will apply across the board. When you open Excel, you'll typically land on a start screen where you'll see a list of recently used files and an option to create a new workbook. You might also notice pre-made templates that can save you time, and if you need something specific, you can search for more. But for now, let's keep things simple. I'll click on Blank Workbook to open a fresh spreadsheet. Now that we have our blank workbook open, let's break down the key components of an Excel spreadsheet. Excel files are called workbooks, and each workbook consists of at least one sheet, or spreadsheet. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the active sheet, usually labeled Sheet 1. You can add more sheets, rename them, or organize data across multiple sheets, depending on your needs. Excel organizes data in columns labeled A, B, C, and so on, and rows numbered 1, 2, 3, etc. The intersection of a column and a row forms a cell, which is where you enter data. Each cell has a unique reference based on its column and row. For example, the cell in column E, row 10, is called E10, and the cell in column B, row 7, is B7. Since every single cell in Excel can be identified this way, it opens up a world of possibilities when working with formulas, functions, and data organization. You can also select multiple cells at once. This is called a range. A range can be a small group of cells, or even an entire section of the spreadsheet. To define a range, we use the starting and ending cell references. For example, if I select cells from D4 to F10, that would be written as D4:F10. Now that we've covered the basics of how Excel organizes data, let's go a little deeper into how it all comes together. We've talked about columns, rows, cells, and ranges, but let's not forget that all of this happens inside a worksheet, also called a sheet or a spreadsheet. A single Excel file, or workbook, can contain multiple worksheets. By default, a new workbook starts with just one sheet, but you can add more by clicking the plus plus button at the bottom. Now I have 2 sheets. If I click again, I have 3. Each sheet can hold different sets of data, and you can even rename them for better organization. Aside from understanding the structure of Excel, it's also important to get familiar with its layout. At the top of the screen, you'll see several tabs, such as Home, Insert, Page Layout, and Data. These tabs control what tools appear in the ribbon below them. When you click on a tab, the ribbon updates to show the relevant tools. For example, clicking on Formulas brings up the Formulas ribbon, while clicking on View completely changes it to the View ribbon. Each ribbon is divided into groups, separated by small vertical lines. For example, in the Insert tab, you'll find a Charts group, Tables group, and Illustrations group. If a group has more tools than can fit in the space provided, there will be a small arrow icon in the corner, called a Launch button. Clicking it opens additional settings and options. Not every group has one, but when you see it, it's worth checking out. On the right side of the screen, you'll find the vertical scroll bar, which allows you to move up and down through your spreadsheet, and a horizontal scroll bar at the bottom for moving side to side. Just below that is the zoom slider. If you slide it to the right, everything gets larger. Slide it to the left, and the view zooms out. This only affects how you see the spreadsheet, not the actual size of the data. In the lower right corner, you'll also find view buttons, allowing you to switch between different spreadsheet views. Most people work in normal view, but you can also use page break preview to see how your data will be split across printed pages, or page layout view for a more document-like appearance. At the upper left corner of the screen is the name box. This box displays the reference of the currently selected cell, such as C5 or G12. Later, you'll see how you can use the name box for more than just navigation. It can also be used to name specific ranges for easy reference.
when working with long text or complex formulas because it gives you a clear space to see and edit them. At the very top of Excel, you'll find the Quick Access Toolbar, which holds shortcuts to commonly used commands like save, undo, and redo. This toolbar can be customized to include other tools you frequently use. To the right of this, you'll see the title bar, which displays the name of your file, and the close button X to exit Excel.
Now that we're familiar with how Excel is structured and how the interface works, let's save our file. I'll go to File, Save, and name the file Excel Basics TechGirl 254 before clicking Save. It's time now for the second segment of this course, which is how to enter cell values in Microsoft Excel. Let's say I work for a small business and I've been asked to create a payroll spreadsheet for the employees. In column A, I'd like to have the employee ID numbers. In column B, the employee names, and then some information about their wages, hours worked, and how much they are owed. Anytime in Excel when you want to enter data into a cell, it's important to first select that cell. So, I want to affect A1, so I'll select it by clicking on it once. I can now affect it by typing. Let's say the employee ID number for employee 1, type the number 1, and that data appears in the cell, but it's not truly entered until I tap enter or return on the keyboard. Now the data is inside that cell. Notice when I tapped enter, the active cell moved down 1, and that's great because that's where I want to type the next number. 2, enter. 3, enter. 4. I could continue to do this down the spreadsheet, but that is repetitive. Excel has a built-in feature to make this easier. There's something called the fill handle or the autofill handle in Microsoft Excel, and the way it works is that it identifies patterns and then extends those patterns. The pattern here is adding 1 to the previous number, so 1, 2, 3, 4. The pattern is clear. If I click and drag to select that range, A1 through A4, the pattern should be clear now. If you look in the lower right corner of this range, there's a little green square. This is the autofill handle. If I put my mouse pointer directly on that little green square, the mouse pointer becomes a black plus sign. Now, if I click and hold, I can drag down the spreadsheet all the way to 70. When I release the mouse button, Excel automatically extends the pattern. Next, I'll click on cell B1 because I want to affect that cell, and I'll type the name of the first employee, then tap enter. Again, the active cell moves down, and I can type the next employee name. I'll just use first names to go faster. Now you'll notice I misspelled one of the names. This is supposed to be Mary, not Miri. So this gives me the opportunity to teach you an important concept in Excel, the difference between clicking on a cell and clicking in a cell. When you click on a cell once, the whole cell is selected. If I click on Mary and try to fix it, the first letter I type erases whatever the contents of that cell already are. Instead, I'll double-click the cell, and now you can see my flashing cursor. I can use the arrow keys to move the cursor to the right place, type the correction, then tap Enter on the keyboard. As you're entering data into Excel, every time you tap Enter, the active cell moves down. But what if you need to move up? You can hold the Shift key and tap Enter, which moves you up the spreadsheet. Now that I've finished my list of names, I'm going to click on cell B1 because I need to show you another way to navigate. In addition to moving down the spreadsheet by tapping Enter and up the spreadsheet by using Shift plus Enter, you can move right and left by using the Tab key. If I tap Tab, I move to the right. Now I'm on cell C1, where I can type the hourly wage of employee 1. If I need to move to the left, Shift plus Tab moves me back. I'll tab over to cell D1 and put in the number of hours employee 1 has worked this month, 100. I'll tab over again. The next thing we need to learn about entering cell values in Excel is how to clear and copy cell contents. We've already looked at how to edit them by double-clicking, but what if you need to copy the contents of one cell to another? You can click on a cell or even a range, hold the Control key, and tap C to copy. There are other ways to do this, like going to the Home tab and clicking the Copy button, or right-clicking and selecting Copy. But in most cases, simply using Ctrl plus C to copy and Ctrl plus V to paste is the fastest way. I could just keep pasting the number 15 in each of these cells, but remember, we have a tool called the autofill handle. Instead of typing the same value repeatedly, I can use this tool to extend the pattern. Now, with just cell C5 selected, what is the pattern that the autofill handle will see? The only pattern I'm showing it is a single number. If I click on the autofill handle and pull it down, Excel will copy the number 15 all the way down the column. What if this number isn't accurate for all employees? Maybe Amelia is making more than $15 an hour. I could click on that cell and overwrite it with another number, tap Enter, and that's a fast way to do it. However, sometimes you need to completely clear everything in a cell, not just the data but also the formatting. To do this, you can right-click on the cell and choose Clear Contents, or you can select Arrange and go to the Home tab in the Editing group, where there's a Clear button. Clicking the arrow next to it gives you options to clear all, format, contents, hyperlinks, etc. Selecting Clear All completely wipes the cell clean. Now, as I'm building this spreadsheet, I realize it's hard to remember exactly what each of these columns represents. 15 what? 16 what? 160 what? I should have included column titles. If I need another blank row above row 1, I can right-click on the number 1 and choose Insert. If I need a new blank column, I can right-click on column A and choose Insert. I'll click here on cell A1 and type Employee ID, then tab over to B1 and type Name, then Hourly Wage in C1, Hours Worked in D1, and Taxable Income in E1. Now I can understand what all the data represents. However, not all my column titles fit within the cells. For example, Hourly Wage doesn't fit in the space provided. I can manually adjust column width by clicking and dragging between column letters, but a faster way is to select columns A through E, then double-click between any two column letters. Excel will automatically resize all columns to fit their contents. Let's say the standard hourly wage increases from $15 an hour to $15.50. Instead of manually updating every cell, I can use Find and Replace. In the Home tab, under Editing, I'll select Find and select Greater than Replace. In the Find field, I enter 15, and in the Replace field, I enter 15.5, then click Replace All. Excel updates all instances of 15 in the sheet. Let's look at moving cell contents. We've already covered Copy, Control plus C, and Paste, Control plus V. But if I need to move data instead of copying it, I can use Cut, Control plus X, and then Paste. Another way is to click on the edge of a selected cell or range, drag it to a new location, and release the mouse. In this segment, we're going to focus on formulas. I would like to calculate the total taxable income for each employee, and for that, I need to multiply each employee's wage by how many hours they worked. I could do that in my head or use a calculator, but that is exactly one of the things that Excel does best. Excel is a spreadsheet tool, but it's also a calculator. It has built-in functions and operators that you would need. On cell E2, I will create my first formula in Excel. Whenever you're creating a formula, you need to start by typing equals. That is how Excel knows you are entering a formula. I could type equals 13.9 times 158, and then press Enter. And that would give the taxable income for Julia. This is one way to enter a formula in Excel. You can type numbers, use plus, minus, asterisk for multiplication, / for division, and press Enter to execute the formula. However, there is a better way. Instead of typing numbers manually, I can use cell references. Every cell in a spreadsheet can be described using its column letter and row number. To create a dynamic formula, I will type equals C2 times D2. Excel highlights the referenced cells in different colors to help visualize the formula. Pressing Enter gives the same result, but this method is better because it updates automatically if the wage or hours worked change. Another way to enter formulas is by clicking on the cells instead of typing their references. I can type equals, click on C3, type asterisk, click on D3, then press Enter. The result appears as a number, But when I double-click on E2 or E3, I can see the actual formula inside the cell. These formulas use relative cell references. This means that Excel interprets C3 times D3 as multiply the value 2 cells to the left by the value 1 cell to the left. When the formula is copied down using the autofill handle, Excel automatically adjusts the references to apply the formula to each row, C4 times D4, C5 times D5, etc. To extend the formula down the column, I can double-click on the autofill handle, the small square in the bottom right corner of the selected cell, and it will copy the formula down the column automatically. Now let's calculate the amount of taxes to be paid. Assume the tax rate is 7%, entered as 0.07 in cell H1. To calculate the tax for each employee, I enter the formula equals E2 times H1. This works for the first row, but when I use the autofill handle to copy it down, it gives incorrect results. The issue is that H1 is a relative reference, so Excel shifts the reference down as the formula is copied. To fix this, I need to make H1 an absolute reference by adding dollar signs equals E2 times dollar, H $1. The dollar signs lock the reference so that it always points to H1, even when the formula is copied. Now, using the autofill handle works correctly, and each row refers to H1. There are also cases where formulas may produce errors. For example, dividing by 0 results in an error #dev/0! Excel sometimes warns about potential errors before allowing the formula. Errors can be fixed by editing formulas in the formula bar instead of double-clicking on the cell. Another useful feature in Excel is named ranges. I can select a range of cells, go to the name box, and assign a custom name like taxes owed. Now, instead of using a standard cell reference like E3, I can use taxes owed in formulas. Named ranges make formulas easier to read and manage. Next, let's explore functions. Many users confuse formulas and functions, but they are different. A function is a built-in operation in Excel, while a formula is an equation that may use functions. One of the most commonly used functions is sum. To add up all the hours, this function adds all the numbers in the selected range. Instead of typing, I can also click and drag to select the range. Excel provides an even faster way to sum values using AutoSum. Clicking on a cell below a column of numbers, then clicking the AutoSum button sigma in the Home tab, automatically inserts a sum function. Pressing Enter completes the calculation. After summing the hours worked, I can do the same for taxable income. Instead of typing a new sum formula, I can drag the existing one across to the next column using the autofill handle. Because these are relative references, Excel adjusts the formula accordingly. Functions like sum are just the beginning. Excel has many more functions that make calculations easier and more efficient. The final segment in this lesson will cover charts, followed by printing and publishing options in Microsoft Excel to ensure your data is presentation ready. Creating charts in Excel. To make your data visually appealing and easier to interpret, let's create a simple chart. 1. Highlight your data. First, ensure your data is highlighted. You can use the zoom slider to make sure you're viewing the full data set. 2. Insert a chart. Hold the Alt key and press F1. Excel will automatically generate a chart based on the data you've selected. 3. Chart types. Excel usually defaults to a stacked column chart, but you can change it. Click on the chart, go to the Chart Design tab, and choose Change Chart Type. You can try a clustered column, pie chart, or any other type that suits your data. 4. Refining your chart. You can further customize your chart by adding elements like Chart Title. Click on the title box and type your preferred title, e.g., Summary Chart. Axis Titles. Add horizontal and vertical axis titles by selecting them from the Chart Elements option. Keep in mind, if your data is complex, it may be best to create multiple charts focusing on specific data points. Prescriptions. You've completed the course. You've now learned all the essentials to create, format, analyze, chart, print, and share data in Excel. Though there's always more to explore, you have everything you need to use Excel confidently. Thank you for completing the course. Be sure to practice regularly and stay tuned for more advanced tutorials. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel to get more Excel tips and tutorials. Happy excelling!